Welcome to Highway to Space, the podcast that takes you on a journey through the cosmos and beyond. I'm your host, Dan Profir, and today we have a very special guest, Kaci Heins, the Executive Director of the Limitless Space Institute, LSI. Kaci, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm excited to be here.
Let's start with an introduction of you and the Limitless Space Institute. Can you please tell us a bit more about yourself and your role there?
Absolutely. The Limitless Space Institute is a nonprofit, and it's our mission to inspire and educate future generations to explore beyond the solar system, along with supporting the research and development of those technologies that will take us there. So you can think about it as we help fund research in the realm that occasionally seems like science fiction. Solar sails, laser propulsion, nuclear to electric propulsion, and even warp drive. So things that seem like science fiction are actually becoming a reality, and we help fund those through grants, and then through the education piece, we take that amazing research and turn it into teacher professional development and lesson plans that we can put in front of teachers and students all over the world, because they are the generation that's going to take us to deep space and to beyond, to other stars.
So you are a school, but not quite a school.
Correct. We are not a school. Again, so we kind of have a research component to where in the past we've helped support academia around the world. They could write and submit grant proposals, and we would help fund research in the realm of advancements in power and propulsion of spacecraft. And then we have an education outreach component where we take those concepts, and because teachers and students, they don't know what they don't know. And they see these movies and TV shows, and it's very exciting, but it also seems like it's just science fiction to be able to travel that fast. But it's actually something humanity is working towards, and those are future STEM careers. So we really try to highlight those opportunities and how humans are pushing the boundaries of physics and engineering in order to help us explore and answer a lot of questions that we're constantly coming up with.
That sounds fascinating. Can you elaborate on LSI's mission and vision?
Yes. So, our key component is inspiring and educating. And that's how I got involved with LSI. I used to teach middle school science. So it's really important with schools in the United States and around the world, because we are a global institution that reaches teachers all over the world. It's important because education is key everywhere, no matter what country you're in, no matter what age level. The sooner you can inspire students to get on the STEM pathway, then that helps generate a workforce that's motivated and excited, hardworking, and they have that goal in mind.
Your work is laying the groundwork for exploring the moons like Jupiter's moons or the surface of Pluto, but also other planets on other solar systems.
Correct, because right now we have chemical propulsion. We know that works. We've been using it for a long time, but that can only take us so far. We can get to low Earth orbit pretty easily now, although very expensive. We know we can get to the moon. We know with other spacecraft, that don't have humans on them, can go to other planets and other moons. But it takes a really, really long time. And so if we can figure out how to get there faster, then we can start developing more immersive missions to help us do the flyby missions, to help, gain a lot of data, and then build these spacecrafts that can actually take humans, because we know we can send robots and satellites, and that gives us a lot of information, but to have a human there in person taking measurements and being able to see and describe and get all those immersive senses to be able to put with that information, we know the human experience just really brings it to life. But our human lifespan, when we talk about the vastness of space, right now, chemical propulsion it's just not going to cut it. So even a mission to Mars being a 2-year mission, that's a long time for humans to be in space. There's, we have to have all the resources with us for life support if something breaks. So that's a long time. So if we can get there faster, that will help us do a lot more science, answer a lot more questions, and just a lot of the spin-off technologies that will help us get there will probably benefit all of humanity back on Earth.
Well, when I was a kid and I was watching Star Trek, the first version, um, we were looking at those portals to navigate through. Is LSI considering such portals as well, or is just considering the technology, the specific technologies to use as a propulsion?
Right, great question. So we don't focus on portals. Right now, we just focus on spacecraft propulsion systems, whether it's high-powered laser propulsion of like solar of sails that can go a percentage of the speed of light, nuclear to electric propulsion, but even warp drive is definitely something that we've helped fund the research for, and our head of R&D, Dr. White, has done research on that as well.
Can you dive into some of the specific technology LSI is working on? What are some of the, I don't know, the key areas of research?
Right. So through our grants and fellowship program, we have helped support funding for laser propulsion. So developing high-powered lasers to push small sails that can go a percentage of the speed of light. Just solar cells in general, being able to use the sun's energy, the photons from the sun to propel a spacecraft. So the lighter, the better. And so there's a lot of really neat things happening in that realm. Nuclear to electric, and then of course warp drive. So Dr. White has been working on the warp drive aspect with the Alcubierre, that aspect of his research. So I am not an expert in that. He is the expert in all things warp drive, but basically it's compressing space and time in front of the spacecraft and expanding behind the spacecraft. So a analog here on Earth is if you've been in an airport and they have the people movers that you step on and you can, traverse the airport much more quickly. But that's essentially what's happening is, when you're stepping on it, you're still walking at the same speed as your neighbor that's not on the people mover. But what it's doing is it's compressing the space in front of you as you're walking and expanding the space behind you. So it seems like you get to the end much faster. So that's essentially what most people are like, oh yeah, I've been on one of those. That makes sense. So a lot of really incredible research that's happening, and it's been amazing to be supporting that.
That's really incredible. How does LSI engage with the next generation to inspire them towards careers in STEM and space exploration?
Yes, that's a great question because, again, kids see these movies and TV shows and they're like, oh, that's so cool. I mean, I've never seen a kiddo be like, that's boring. That can't happen. Like, no, it's like, I wonder, what if, the curiosity, the excitement of what if we could go to another star and explore other planets around that star? That's really exciting. And even just looking up at the night sky, every human on this planet has access. There's no limit to being able to go outside at night and see the night sky. So, I mean, even when that's the piece that I am excited about, because as a former educator, I know how important education is to our societies, and being able to have a strong workforce that is knowledgeable about science, technology, engineering, and math, but also reading, writing, and the arts. And so it's very interesting because I used to hate teaching space. I dreaded it because I grew up in a very small rural town of coal mines and cornfields of only like 9,000 people, and it was never talked about. It was not on the news. It wasn't important to our area, and so I never had that exposure. So when I had to then teach it to students, 120 students in middle school, when we got to that unit to meet those standards, they had a million questions. And I'm like, I didn't know, because I didn't know. And so they'd be like, Ms. Heins, what's a black hole? I'm like, I don't know. It's black. It's a hole. Stuff goes in, stuff doesn't come out, I have no idea. And so I'd have to do more research, but it could be overwhelming and very intimidating. And so my mentor teacher said, you need to go to space camp for teachers. And, there's the whole space camp movie and lots of references to it in other media. And so I applied. Honeywell used to sponsor 200 teachers from around the world. And I got in because I used to live in Flagstaff, Arizona. That was very heavy in space exploration. You have Lowell Observatory where Pluto was discovered. Discovery Channel telescope, the Apollo astronauts trained there prior to their missions. So very immersed in the space realm. So I had a lot of those connections. And when I went to space camp, I was like, woohoo, it's a free sponsored week of, I get to get away. I don't have to pay for anything. And I get there and the first thing they do is they hand you a blue flight suit and they say, you have to wear this on your missions. And I'm like, this is a costume. Like, what a bunch of nerds who have to wear this. But then we had our first mission. I was in a zero gravity chair to where we had to do a mission outside of the shuttle. And I was hooked. I said, this is the coolest thing ever. I don't want a glass of Kool-Aid. I want the fire hose. I want all the information about space. This is so unique. I changed everything in my classroom and how I taught. I taught everything through the lens of space exploration because it was so exciting for me and my students were super excited. One of the schools, I had the highest attendance. I had the best behavior because we did field trips every month. We had guest speakers every month because I wanted to show students that space is really unique and fun, but everyone is needed on the mission. You need accountants, you need doctors, you need lawyers, you need teachers, you need botanists, you need everybody. All different types of careers can be a part of the mission of space. And I think that space gives us something where we're a part of something bigger than ourselves. So you feel like you're working towards the mission and you're all working together for that common goal. And it's very unique and very special. So I was hooked and, I just wanted to bring as many opportunities to my students as possible. And through LSI, I now want to bring the wonders of space, but not just within our solar system, but beyond. These are possibilities, and it may not be my generation, I may not see it, but the future generations that are up and coming, they need to know about this because they could be working on this technology. They could actually be going to these places. So that makes my job very rewarding.
So interesting. Everything you're saying makes so much sense. And I loved so much that you said that you come from a place where space was not on the news. I am talking very much in this podcast particularly about this, and many of our followers are coming from such environments. And I think it's important. Today, we change the paradigm when we talk about space. We have people coming in the show, astronauts, we have cosmonauts, we have people involved directly in the space flights, but we also have people, artists and lawyers. What I want to say is that when we envision probably when the space exploration era, which is coming, it's coming sooner than we think. Until now, space traveling was something very elitistic, because it's very expensive and people with money are affording to go on shuttles to stay 18 seconds in outer space, float a little bit, and then come back. And that's it. Or, the space missions, you have 4 people squeezed into a capsule, and that's it. But our vision towards the space exploration era is when you actually go for a lifespan, not for 5 minutes, not for, you go for a lifespan, and then you go with everything else. You go with your kids, with your wife, with your pets, why not? Is it something that your students are sharing in the same way?
Yes. So it's very unique that you brought that up because that's something that actually gets really exciting to think about. And we teach our teachers about, because when we think about going to another star or other planets or even moons in our own solar system, It's going to take a while to get there as we still continue to work on different propulsion methods. But it could be that you're on a spacecraft for a lifetime, or we just had a guest speaker from Luxembourg, Andreas Hein, who talked about multi-generational starships and how looking at the psychology and how do you educate and maintain a society on a spacecraft for multiple generations. So the first generation that leaves Earth is going to know the experiences of Earth. However, the next generation is kind of in the middle where they've never experienced Earth and what our planet is about, but yet they're on this mission to another location. So how is that going to impact morale? How is that going to impact, the mission that they're working towards? And then you have the generation that will end up there. And what's that going to be like? So there's actually a lot of psychological issues that we will have to think about and prepare for on those multi-generational ships. And it's fascinating to think about. And even if you've seen the movie WALL-E, it's kind of in that realm. So it's just interesting, like from an educator side, how do we educate people on those multi-generational ships? How does everyone have a career and have goals that they're working towards, but yet in this contained, closed loop environment? So it's really quite fascinating.
Can you share with us, you mentioned a space camp, and I saw pictures with you and your students. Is this experience in the G0 airplane happening there, or is it in a different place? Well, I would like I found that's absolutely amazing. Can you share with us some stories with your students in the space camp?
Oh, definitely. So after space camp, I taught everything through space, as I mentioned, and some unique experiences that I brought to the students because I wanted to provide a real world application of the content. And so we sent experiments to the International Space Station. We flew high altitude balloons, which I'll talk about in a minute. And we flew student designed experiments on the zero gravity plane, which was an amazing experience to be weightless. It is truly just phenomenal to feel like a superwoman or Superman, and you just float and fly around. But the students designed experiments and we had to write proposals. So they got that experience of how to write procedures. And this is going to be reviewed by NASA engineers because it was a NASA program at the time. And just going on the plane, the teachers, we had a group of 5 teachers and from all over the country, and we went together. So we are representing, hundreds of kids all over the country to do this experiment. But it's very unique in that plane because it's padded all around, definitely to help people because that's a unique environment of being weightless, so that you don't hurt yourself or others. So they do lovingly sometimes call it the vomit comet, but I did not get sick. So usually about one person, it seems, because I've flown twice, seems to get to them. But, we're doing these experiments and the plane, you're pulling 2 Gs as the plane climbs up to almost 40,000 feet in the atmosphere. And so you're laying on the floor. Thankfully, it's nice and padded. And so you hear the engines throttle back, and that's when you're coming over that parabola. And you only get about, 15 to 20 seconds of weightlessness, but that's when you're there to do a job. You have to do your experiment and acquire as much data as possible. And so that's what we would do. And then you would hear him say, pull up or coming out. And so then there's handles and things. So you're floating around doing your experiment and you grab it and then you hit the floor and then you're pulling 2 Gs. So when you're doing that about 30 times, it can wear on you because you're going hypergravity, then microgravity, hypergravity, microgravity. But it's actually phenomenal. I didn't have any issues. But my first time, it's a kind of a funny story. When I was floating around, we came over our first parabola, and I was holding on to our glove box where the experiment was. Well, Newton was dead on. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, and I had touched the floor, so my feet started floating up behind me, and I couldn't control them. So then your first reaction is almost like when you're in a swimming pool and you start to kick because you want to move around. Well, I just start kicking everywhere. But of course, it's not like in a swimming pool, you're not going to move anywhere. So I look like a flailing fish in midair, and my NASA mentor had to grab my leg and pull me back down before we came out of microgravity and went back into hypergravity. So it's very unique. It's super fun. I wish everyone on the planet could experience it. But it provides a really unique environment to do experiments, because in space, working in a microgravity environment, they're able to do things they can't do in 1G. I know with 3D printing and working with cells and pharmaceuticals, growing crystals, it works so much differently in that environment, and there could be a lot of opportunity for manufacturing in space that can help benefit people on Earth.
It's amazing. It's amazing. Can you share some success stories, or if you want, milestones LSI has achieved so far?
Absolutely. So we have achieved some incredible metrics, and specifically in our educator program. Every year we open up applications for teachers that are very passionate about STEM education, but through the lens of space exploration. And they apply to be in our year-long teacher professional development program. So as a former teacher, I wanted to design something that was immersive. It's not just a one-off thing. I want to keep it top of mind all the time. And so we partnered with IHS Towers, which is an international telecommunications company, and they sponsored 10 teachers in Brazil, that's why the flag, and then 10 teachers in Nigeria last year. So they were immersed in this program for a year. It's a hybrid program, so I teach them monthly, and monthly we bring in a subject matter expert. So we meet twice to really, again, immerse them in our curriculum that we've created through the lens of interstellar exploration. And then we bring them to Houston. We have to have that in-person piece. As I mentioned with Space Camp, when I was immersed in that environment, it changed my life, literally changed my life at 28 years old. And I've been on this pathway for 15 years, and I've been able to do some amazing things and inspire people all over the world. And it came from one experience. So we have to bring the teachers to Houston to tour unique industry partners, meet astronauts, engineers, to get those experiences that they can take back to the classroom. Because the most important piece of this is that teachers every year see hundreds of kids. If you're a middle school teacher, you probably have 100 to 120 students. And then the next year you have 100 students, and the next year. So exponentially, these teachers are putting this content in front of students year after year, exponentially reaching tens of thousands of students. So we want to reach hundreds of thousands over the next 10 years. And so with Brazil and Nigeria, we also got to go to their countries. We worked with the Brazilian Space Agency and the TAO and brought content. Our teachers were teaching teachers, which is the ultimate goal of the program. They start off as limitless educators. By the end of the program, they're limitless ambassadors. So then again, they are reaching others in their area. In Nigeria, we visited multiple schools, and we were doing straw rockets. We launched over 1,000 straw rockets in one day with students at a local school. And they're hungry for this content. They're hungry for space, because a lot of these countries and students, they've never had this exposure, and they've never been told that they could be a part of this mission. They may have never had an astronaut from their country, or it may not be top of mind. So being able to bring it to different countries and communities all over the world has been absolutely phenomenal. We had 100% participation from these 20 teachers, and they're now off continuing to do amazing things, presenting at conferences and being accepted into other space programs for teachers and doing more outreach. So it's been amazing to see the growth of this program and the impact, because I think we reached over 14,000 participants, whether teachers or students, last year. And of course, this year we want to reach over 20,000. So we have a new cohort in the United States, and we're continuing to look for other international partners to bring this to their schools and communities.
Wow, that's fantastic. It's an amazing work you're doing. Now, looking ahead, What are some of the future goals and projects for LSI?
So future goals and projects for LSI are to continue scaling up our education outreach program. Again, if people don't know, they don't know. So we want to inform them about the research that LSI has been doing. We want to continue the funding for the research. We want to continue inspiring and educating through our education outreach program. So we want to continue building partnerships with other countries to bring the program to teachers and to bring it to students as well. So we just want to keep scaling up, and that means we need people involved. So programs are completely donor and sponsor funded. We are a nonprofit. So being able to have people get involved, sponsoring a teacher, sponsoring multiple teachers, sponsoring cohorts in different countries, that's what we want to keep building on and to have that global reach.
Talking about those partnerships you have established, can you tell us more about how LSI is establishing a partnership with, I say, universities? How is this process going? How you select them?
Well, that's through our grant program. So that was run by Dr. White. So the participants that applied for those grants and fellowships through their universities becomes a partnership. And so you probably have seen that on our website. So universities all over the world, and those were 2-year grants. So then if you go to our YouTube channel, you can actually see the updates. So every year, those researchers from those universities actually give updates on their research. So if people want to learn more about the technologies being developed with laser propulsion and nuclear to electric, the solar sails, all those things that we've helped support, you can actually go to our YouTube site and hear their 20-minute updates that they gave for 2 years that they were part of the program.
Yeah, that's impressive. And from what I get, those partnerships benefit both LSI and the academic community. Is that correct?
Well, definitely. And really it's supporting them through their grants. We want, this type of research is really hard because people may not think it's possible, but they are doing incredible work. If you watch those updates and you see the headway that they're making, it's really amazing because I think we'll get to see some of these technologies come to fruition in our lifetime. And we'll be able to get more answers to questions that we've always wanted answered. So it's definitely a huge, I think, win-win for everybody. But, as a teacher as well, it's like you want to help support people grow through knowledge. And that's not always the case, but we're always want to be a champion for them.
Can you share some details about the educational programs LSI offers?
Yes. So we have different programs. We can go to schools and do outreach and activities. I'm actually going to another state tomorrow for an outreach on Thursday. I will be here locally on Saturday with a girls and women in engineering program. We work with young girls. We'll be doing rocketry, so it should be a lot of fun. But really our main focus is on the teachers. Our immersive teacher program, where teachers either are sponsored or they want a scholarship to be able to participate for a full year. We meet with them twice a month for an entire year. We bring them to Houston to be able to be a part of the space industry for a week because it's building those experiences. So we also participate though by going to their schools. I am going to be giving a talk tomorrow to teachers in Nigeria about integrating space education into their classroom. So we can do a lot of virtual events, but the in-person are a lot of fun as well because we can actually do hands-on activities together to make concepts like, oh, this is how it works, make it a reality, along with providing just unique experiences, guest speakers, things like that. So, and we can do just about anything. We host school groups in Houston as well. Dr. White gives a really awesome presentation about power and propulsion and a tour of our lab. So that's a really unique and mind-blowing experience. And then we also can do hands-on activities in our lab in Houston for students. We work with students from South Korea. We had a student group from Maryland a few weeks ago. So it's really, if people have an ask, we're definitely there to listen. It's a yes if always, because we want to continue to provide different avenues for people to learn about these concepts and be a part of the mission.
It's great to see such a comprehensive approach. Kaci, finally, how can our listeners and followers can get involved? How can they support the Limitless Space Institute?
Yes, if anyone would like to be involved with LSI, you can sign up on our website to receive newsletters. Definitely follow us on social media for things that are up and coming. But really, as a nonprofit, it's just about doing good. How can we do more for others, especially in the education realm, is being able to sponsor teachers, sponsor, like I said, a classroom. We can do lab grants for teachers. It's just being involved with us because it's the future. And that's what's really exciting. The program for teachers is designed by teacher for teachers. So it's authentic, it's legit, it's exciting because if I'm bored, I know they're bored. So we try to keep it exciting and hands-on and exploratory and immersive as possible. And if anyone's ever wanting to help sponsor research, we can go that route as well because we want to continue offering that in the future as well.
It does sound like LSI has a lot of exciting things coming up. Now, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like to share with our audience?
I would just like to share, number one, thank you for having me on this show. It's always a highlight of my day to be able to share the mission of LSI because, again, it's things that seem like science fiction, but when you have humanity working together, because we're unique in that Limitless as a nonprofit, we can go global. We can work with countries all over the world, students and teachers all over the world. And exploring space truly is a team effort. And we're going to need people and skill sets from all over the world coming together to propel us to where we want to go. But then when we get there, having different perspectives and viewpoints to be able to work together towards that mission. And I just feel very blessed to be able to do this job and to bring this knowledge of what could be and to bring people together to say, hey, we can be a part of this. And to say I know I'm going to be working with 8-year-olds on Saturday and they're young ladies, and to say, girls, you could be a part of this. If you like launching this rocket, then you may want to be a propulsion engineer. You may want to work on nuclear to electric in the future. And you may go to Europa after we send this Europa Clipper there, and you'll make all these amazing discoveries. So, and ultimately we want to have all these answers all these questions answered because we're just a curious species. And I think that's what's exciting about space is no matter what, we'll just keep looking to another star in the night sky and say, I wonder what that's like. Let's go there. Let's do it. Let's dare mighty things. So thank you for having me on this show.
Let's keep dreaming big. Thank you, Kaci, for sharing your insights on this amazing work you're doing with Limitless Space Institute. And it's been a pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been an honor to be here.
That's all for today's episode of Highway to Space. Thank you for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe, review it, and share it wherever you are, wherever you get this podcast. Until then, stay curious about the cosmos and keep looking up. See you next time.
Turn your gaze gaze to the night, a blanket of stars. We're setting our sights on worlds near and far. With every conversation, we're breaking new ground. In the heart of exploration, our dreams are profound. From Mars to the cosmos, we'll make our stand, unraveling mysteries with a hopeful hand. We're joined by the dreamers, the pioneers of fate. Together we'll chart what awaits us in space. On the highway to space, we'll soar ever high. With our hearts full of wonder, let's reach for the sky. In this journey together, we're lighting the way. The future of exploring is ours here today. With astronauts guiding and artists in tow, scientists dreaming where the wild comets flow. Each guest tells a story, each voice adds a spark, as we forge our path through the shadows and dark. The search for new life and the tales yet untold. In the theater of space, our adventures unfold, inspiring the youth with stars in their eyes. The next generation will claim their own skies. On the highway to space, we'll soar ever high. With our hearts full of wonder, let's reach for the sky. In this journey together, we're lighting the way. The future of exploring is ours here today.